Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Living in Coherence, the practice of inner unity. This is our fourth session, and I thank you for being here or watching the recording, whatever you're doing, as we increase our conversations about embracing and integrating coherence into our daily lives. For those who don't know me, my name is Dorothy Wesley, and I'm an attorney, an author coach, a death diva, and a wisdom sharer. There's so many things that I do. I consider myself a resource for evolutionary consciousness and creating tools that support us on our journey through these changing times, supporting us as we step into our best selves and onto our new timelines and embodying our timeless true selves as we build this new reality. I've been on the esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual path for many, many decades. So many. And I'm just so happy to be able to provide so much experience, such a broad perspective of the many years that I've been practicing and integrating these concepts into my life that support me on my journey and have supported so many along the way since I've been doing my teachings. So I'm so excited that you're watching the recording or being here with me. We have a few things to accomplish today, but the first thing I always like to do is for us to be here present, being here together, coming together as one. So let's do that together. Let's close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths, okay? First breath, big, deep breath in. And let it out through your nose or your mouth. Listening to the sound of my voice, bring in another breath. Bring it into your heart and let it out through your nose or your mouth. And one last deep breath in, bringing love and gratitude and all those wonderful feelings that we have at this time of year, and flow them out as we come together here, present, listening to this conversation. Oh, feels good here to be with you. Every chance I have, I like to remind us why we do this inner work. It's so important. And since you're watching this or being here, I'm sure that this is an experience that you're a part of. And I feel like it's so important. So many people go, well, what's it got to do with anything? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything for you. Yet we know that it's important. And the greatest power we have as a human being is to raise our own consciousness, is to step into a new level of awareness that brings us more wisdom, more skill, more ability to live our life in a different way, giving us the ability to make choices about what are good, who to trust, who to love, what's meaningful in our life. And when we raise our own consciousness, the wonderful benefit is we raise the consciousness of humanity, because we all exist in this field of love together. And when we raise our own consciousness and humanity's consciousness is raised, we spread the love and the energy. So our lives, our lifestyle, our compassion, our love, and our kindness all feed the field. Feed the field. What we feed the field matters. And it's important that we know that and integrate that into our lives. So, as I contemplated what we should talk about today on Living in Coherence, as we talk about, putting our energy into how do we integrate coherence into our daily lives, and living in coherence and community is a really important aspect of that. Now, last week we talked about the cow. I told the cow story, which is all about letting go of things that hold us back from moving forward, which can keep us from supporting coherence in our lives every day. So as I consulted spirit with what to talk about this week, what came up was to talk about our intuition. And our intuition and how important it is to fully embrace and embody our intuition as part of living in coherence in a daily way. I've written and talked about intuition for years. And whether we realize it or not, it's the most important factor in our evolutionary journey right now, and we may not know it because it's our inner guidance. We need to acknowledge, learn, trust, and develop our intuition to support us more as we step into our coherence and living in it on a daily basis. So we need to acknowledge it, right? As we traverse tapping into our intuition and what that means, we want to think about what intuition is to you. So, you know you have it, right? Do you listen to it? Or is it just something that comes up once in a while, or only when it's really loud or making a voice? Or is it a tool you use in your life every day? Is it a practice? You probably have some idea about what your intuition is if you're pretty new to really doing what intuition is. But your intuition is really kind of amorphous. Really, it's kind of the gut reaction or kind of a vibe you feel. It's you know what it is, I'm sure. But really, when we talk about what the definition of intuition is defined in the dictionary as a direct perception of truth, fact, etc., independent of any reasoning powers. In other words, you have the ability to acknowledge without the use of reason, without the use of your mind. Intuition comes from a Latin word, translated means to look within, to contemplate. Yogananda really said it best in a 1939 article on how to develop your intuition. He said, intuition is that directly perceiving facility of the soul, which at once knows the truth about anything. Unless you have the power of intuition, you cannot possibly know the truth. It is that knowing power of the soul without the help of the senses of the mind. Intuition can give you knowledge about things which your senses and understanding can never give. Intuition does not depend on any outside data whatsoever. So intuition is really substantial and is composed of two parts. In, which points us within, and tuition, which has to do with teaching or learning. Looking at intuition from this point translates intuition into our inner guide. And we may not have thought of it so much that way. We can really, like the deep sounding dolphin, we can go deep. We have the ability to get to the bottom of things through our intuition. We can sound out the truth of things just by doing that. There's no need to be blown about by what other people think or feel or tell us the way it is or what the right thing to do. We can tap into our very own heart's knowingness, our very own intuition, to find out the way that it is, the truth of the matter, and the right way to do things and what's right at any moment or from moment to moment. So I invite us to incorporate the intentional practice of intuition in conjunction with our practice of coherence next week, right? Let's do this next week. Let's explore it more. Not only explore it, but intentionally pay attention to when your intuition is nudging you or coming to you. So how important is it in your daily life? I think it's very important. I think it's critical, and we probably use it much more than we're consciously aware of. But now it's time to turn up the volume. I use that term a lot, turning up the volume, and that's because I was in a meditation with Barbara Marx Hubbard many years ago. And one of the things we were meditating on was how do we open up that pipeline between us and our higher selves, or us and the universe, or us and whatever you call that higher level of energy. And as I was meditating on it, what came for me? Turn up the volume, Doherty. Turn up the volume. And I went, whoa, that was such an important message for me. And I learned how to turn up the volume because of the frequencies, because of the vibrations that we all know about. And I started turning up the volume. And that's what we need to do on our intuition. We need to turn up the volume. That means it's time to listen deeply and strongly and trustingly and learn to honor the experience of our intuition. It seems anytime there's a decision to be made, we can go back and forth in our mind, the pros and the cons and the pros and the cons, and come up with probably a well-reasoned decision. But it's our intuition, that perspective without the benefit of the mind, in conjunction with our coherence, that balance of the mind and the heart, which really controls the ability to make the right decision. It's such a powerful tool that we have, our intuition. And so many of us, I think, don't pay attention to it enough. Turn up the volume. It's important how we do that. I think the most important practice to develop is to learn how to quiet the mind. You know how I talk about taming and training our monkey mind. If you don't, you should check me out. I have an island here called Wisdom for the New Reality. Please join us there. I have different topics that I post on, but one of them is about taming and training our monkey mind. And that quiets the mind. And at the same time, with introspection and meditation, we can learn to trust, love, and trust our intuition, calmly reason with ourselves, and calmly quiet ourselves and come into the coherence. And with that, we hold this coherence, this calmness that comes from that, and it provides the ability to perceive everything within as well as without. We can really see that the left brain focused world out there is failing. That dying world has been on that plane. It's time for us to step into this new world, our new reality that we're creating, because the age of reason is no longer. Now it's all about the spirit, our spirit. All you have to do is watch television to see how focused they are on the mind and not about the spirit. But there's so much growing. I am so encouraged with all that I see about all the folks who are waking up and all the movement that's going on. And here we are doing it. So it will serve us every step of the way. It's just a matter of practice, 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 turning up the volume, trusting our intuition, listening to it. When we hear it, we see it, we know it, we feel it. So we have to acknowledge it. We have to learn how it talks to us, how it impacts us, and then we have to trust it. That's the big one, learning how to trust it. So I offer to you that you contemplate this week how your very own intuition can guide you and guide you in your coherence practice. If you're paying attention, that's the most important thing. Know that your calmness, your ability to open yourself to being strong and yet vulnerable, to letting that sixth sense, that knowing power without the mind, that knowing power of the soul, support you in every decision, every move, every step you make. It's very, very powerful, potentially a greater experiment than what we're currently having. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please feel free, if you're watching the recording, to comment after we post the replay. And I would love to support and conversation with you about it any further. So I'm going to conclude now. And that is, I always like to close with the fact that I personally feel that coherence and stepping into our coherent state and being more balanced and feeling more inner peace is what supports us on our journey right now. We can learn to develop our intuition more and more to master coherence and to bring us into a place of understanding that we haven't been before. And another thing I like to remind us every time is that since coherence has come to be a term that embraces fields as diverse as quantum physics, psychology, physiology, as well as subtle energy, brain, heart, and consciousness research. I think it's pretty important that we integrate coherence as a living factor and part of our practice on a daily basis. So let's focus on that as we move on to opening and expanding our heart energies, tapping more and more into our intuition as we move along. So thank you very much for being here or watching this recording. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I am looking forward to us joining together next week, Tuesday, the 28th of November, same time, same station. And until then, aho.